Elon Musk, the self-proclaimed genius with a brain so big it needs its own zip code, decides he's gonna reinvent economics like it's a SpaceX rocket launch.
A more accurate measure of GDP would exclude government spending. No, it wouldn't. When you tax your citizens, you're removing their money from the economy for them to be able to spend. You have to account for that with government spending. This is the most statement ever uttered by a person. Otherwise, you can scale GDP artificially high by spending money on things that don't make people's lives better. GDP isn't about spending money on things that make people's lives better. It's just capturing the overall spend of your economy, or the production of your economy. For example, you could shift everyone who is building cars to working at the DMV. That would result in no cars and a much worse standard of living, but GDP would appear to be the same. If you're not creating cars and nothing is being sold, then no, it wouldn't. What is he talking about? This is not true. This is like, and then chat will be like, oh no, Destiny, see, they say the same thing about you. This doesn't work. This doesn't make any sense. What are you talking about? What? Is there a bad economics post on this yet? Can you explain the graph for those who don't understand? What do you mean the graph? This is just an estimate of how our GDP is going to grow over the next quarter. And it was going to be around, I guess, like 2%. But now the Atlanta Fed is estimating an economic contraction, so a decrease, so the economy will shrink next quarter, is the guesstimate. Is there a community notes on this? On what? Oh, on Elon's? Oh. The United States already reports a measure of GDP excluding government spending called value added by private industries. Currently accounts for 88.7% of U.S. GDP and has steadily risen as a share of GDP since 2009 under both Obama and Biden as well as Trump. There you go. Reread the DMV reference. Why do you not get that? If you don't build cars, so if you shift everybody who's building cars and you stop building cars, GDP is supposed to capture the overall measure of all of the finished products and services in the United States. So if you took everybody who was building cars, you stopped building cars, and you just had them standing around at the V, the only way that this example would make sense is if the DMV were to start selling an equivalent amount of services that would equal the cost of what those cars were selling. That doesn't make any sense. This is just a person who doesn't know what GDP is, because Elon Musk is a 104 IQ monkey. He's a 160 IQ genius who's ketamine his brain into a drug frenzy that's made him the equivalent of Destiny. Their salaries are the final product. Yeah, but their salaries, the salaries that you pay these people, would have to encompass the total amount that was being made by the selling of the cars. I mean, there's a world theoretically where you could do this. You could just make one government employee and pay him $1 trillion, but this just wouldn't happen. It doesn't make any sense. What is this? Wait until Elon learns that if you break your neighbor's window and then repair it, GDP goes up. It's security tech bro from East Europe. Up for a chat if you have a second. I love you, buddy. Technically, though, I don't think GDP would go up. That's the window breaker fallacy or whatever. Because whatever you spend on that window, you're not going to spend on another product. Hold on. Destiny, so you understand why it's a bad metric. GDP is not a bad metric. GDP is GDP. It's a great metric. It just captures the gross domestic product of a country. That's all it is. If you're looking for GDP to measure anything else, then it's not a bad metric. It doesn't become a bad metric because it's just not an appropriate metric for whatever other thing you're trying to apply it to. What are you talking about? GDP is just a snapshot of the overall production of your economy. That's it. It's like saying, is this person sick? And you're like, yeah. And it's like, well, what's their height? I don't know, 6'2"? Oh, and they're sick? I guess height is a really metric then, isn't it? No, it's not supposed to capture a person's health. What the f happened in Serbia? Wait, what is this?
He's out here on X, typing with the confidence of a man who snorted too much ketamine and thinks he's cracked the code to the universe. His big idea, GDP is fake news unless you yeet government spending out the equation. Honey, this ain't a vibe, it's a violation. It's like saying you can fix a cake by taking out the flour. Destiny, our knight in shining logic, swoops in like a hawk spotting a field mouse, ready to dismantle this nonsense with the precision of a laser-guided missile. Let's break it down, cause Elon's out here acting like GDP is some kind of capitalist conspiracy cooked up in a DC basement. GDP, gross domestic product, for the uninitiated, is just the total value of all the goods and services a country churns out. It's the economic equivalent of checking your pulse. It tells you the heart of the economy is beating, not whether it's in love or having a panic attack. But Elon is like, nah, government spending is fake. It's inflating the numbers. It's not making people's lives better. And I'm over here screaming, baby, what? You think the government's just out here buying yachts and throwing cash into a volcano? Government spending is roads, schools, hospitals. It's the stuff that keeps society from looking like a post-apocalyptic thrift store. You can't just subtract it like it's a bad Tinder match and expect the numbers to make sense. Destiny's out here like a professor at a community college night class, patiently explaining that when you tax people, you're pulling money out of their pockets, and government spending puts it back into the economy. It's not rocket science, ironic, coming from Mr. SpaceX himself. But Elon's acting like he's discovered a cheat code to economics, when really he's just playing Candy Crush with the national budget. The audacity is so thick you could spread it on toast. This man's out here trying to rewrite the rules of GDP like he's rewriting his own Wikipedia page. And Destiny's like, "Sir, you're not even in the right textbook." Act 2, the DMV debacle and the car conundrum. Now let's talk about Elon's wildest fever dream, the DMV metaphor. He's out here saying if you take everyone building cars and stick them at the DMV, GDP stays the same, but life gets worse. Record scratch. Excuse me, what? This is the kind of logic you get when you mix Red Bull, Twitter, and a midlife crisis. Destiny's like, hold up, that's not how any of this works. If you stop making cars and have everyone twiddling their thumbs at the DMV, you're not producing jack squat, and GDP's gonna tank faster than a Tesla stock after a bad tweet. Cars are goods, DMV lines are, well, a circle of H** Dante forgot to mention. You can't just swap one for the other and call it a day. This metaphor is so unhinged it deserves its own Netflix special. It's like Elon's brain is a pinata, and every time he tweets, a new piece of candy-colored nonsense falls out. Destiny's out here with a baseball bat, swinging at this pinata like, bro, GDP measures production, not vibes. If you're not making cars, you're not selling cars, and the economy's not humming along. It's coughing up smoke like a 90s Honda Civic. Elon's acting like GDP is some kind of mood ring for happiness, when it's just a calculator for economic output. And the idea that you could just pay DMV workers the same as car manufacturers to keep GDP steady? That's not economics, that's fan fiction. Destiny's roasting this like it's a marshmallow at a campfire, and I'm here for every sizzle. But let's not sleep on the bigger picture, 'cause this ain't just about Elon being wrong, it's about him thinking he's the only one who's right. This man's got a messiah complex bigger than a Coachella headliner's ego, and he's out here preaching to his ex-flock like he's the second coming of Adam Smith. Meanwhile, Destiny's like, check the community notes, king. And lo and behold, the U.S. already has a measure of GDP without government spending, value added by private industries, clocking in at 80.7% of GDP. So Elon's big revelation, already a thing. It's like he's trying to invent the wheel, and Destiny's like, bro, we've had wheels since Mesopotamia. Act 3, the liberal lament, capitalism's clown show. Now let's get to the liberal heart of this, 'cause I'm out here screaming into the void like it's a karaoke night, and I'm on my third margarita. This whole saga is a symptom of late-stage capitalism's fever dream, where billionaires like Elon think they can just tweet their way into rewriting economic theory, while the rest of us are out here dodging rent hikes and praying our student loans don't grow sentient. Destiny's roast of Elon isn't just a takedown. It's a public service announcement, a neon-lit billboard screaming, check your facts before you wreck the economy. This is what happens when unchecked wealth meets unchecked hubris. Elon's out here acting like he's the Oracle of Delphi, but his crystal ball is just a cracked iPhone screen. He's got the resources to hire a whole team of economists, but instead, he's out here crowdsourcing his hot takes on X like it's a Reddit thread. And the kicker? His fans eat it up like it's gourmet, not realizing they're being served economic word salad with a side of privilege. Destiny's the only one out here with a fork, trying to pick through this mess and make sense of it, while the rest of the internet's just retweeting for clout. This is the problem with billionaires playing philosopher king in the digital age. They've got platforms bigger than my dreams of a sold-out world tour, but they're using them to spread half-baked ideas that could actually mess with people's understanding of the world. GDP isn't perfect. It's not a love letter to your quality of life. It's just a number. But it's a number we've been using for decades to track economic health, and Elon's out here trying to burn it down like it's a bad Yelp review. Destiny's like, chill, it's not a bad metric, it's just not your personal vibe check. And that's the T. GDP isn't supposed to measure happiness, equality, or how many Teslas you can park in your driveway. It's a snapshot, not a selfie. Act 4. The broken window fallacy and other Elonisms. Let's talk about another gem from Elon's economic TED Talk, the broken window fallacy. He's out here saying if you break a window and fix it, GDP goes up, and that's why it's a bad metric. Screams in liberal. Destiny's like, nah, that's not how it works, fam. The broken window fallacy is Econ 101. Breaking a window doesn't create wealth, it just redirects money you could have spent on something else. It's not boosting GDP like some magical money printer. It's just shuffling resources around like a bad DJ at a club. Elon's acting like he's cracked the Da Vinci Code of economics, when really he's just regurgitating a misunderstanding of a concept every freshman econ major learns before midterms. This is where Destiny's roast hits like a glitter bomb. He's out here calling Elon a 104 IQ monkey, and I'm cackling so hard I'm spilling my matcha. Elon's not dumb, but he's out here acting like he's got a PhD in vibes instead of actual economics. Destiny's like, GDP is JDP, it's not supposed to be your therapist. If you're looking for GDP to measure your spiritual fulfillment or the number of stars in the galaxy, you're in the wrong lane, boo. It's a tool, not a tarot deck. And Elon's out here trying to read the economy's fortune like he's Miss Cleo with a Cybertruck. But let's zoom out, 'cause this ain't just about Elon's bad takes, it's about the cult of personality that lets him get away with it. The man's got a legion of stans who treat his tweets like gospel, and that's where the liberal in me starts throwing shade like it's a solar eclipse. We're living in a world where billionaires can say whatever they want, no matter how wrong, and millions will nod along like it's the Sermon on the Mount. Destiny's out here fighting the good fight, not just for economic accuracy, but for the idea that truth matters more than clout. And in 2025, when the economy's teetering and the Atlanta Fed's predicting a contraction, we need more Destiny energy and less Elon fever dreams. Act 5. The unhinged liberal sermon. So here's the grand finale, the part where I climb on my soapbox and preach like it's the last day of Pride. This whole Elon Destiny GDP beef is a metaphor for everything wrong with our hyper-connected, algorithm-fueled, billionaire-worshipping world. Elon's out here trying to rewrite economics like it's a sci-fi novel, and Destiny's the editor with a red pen, slashing through the nonsense like it's a bad first draft. But the real crime? The fact that we're even having this conversation while the world's burning, inequality's skyrocketing, and the planet's choking on our collective bad decisions. From the liberal perspective, this is what happens when capitalism lets billionaires play God. Elon's not just wrong about GDP, he's emblematic of a system that rewards loudness over logic, wealth over wisdom, and tweets over truth. Destiny's roast is a reminder that we don't have to bow down to every billionaire with a keyboard. We can push back, we can fact-check, we can laugh in the face of absurdity. And we should, 'cause if we let people like Elon rewrite reality unchecked, we're gonna end up in a dystopia where the only metric that matters is how many followers you've got. So let's burn it down, not the economy, but the idea that clout equals credibility. Let's sage the internet, cleanse it of bad takes, and remind ourselves that GDP isn't the enemy, ignorance is. Destiny's out here doing the Lord's work, roasting Elon's economic fan fiction with the precision of a Michelin star chef.